Just like
That's not a mistake.
All right. That was fun. Praise and worship was good this morning. Last night, we had a good group that met at the crossing grounds, and we did this kind of music last night, and so that's at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
And we have coffee from 6 to 7, coffee drinks, or just warm drinks, and they have to have coffee in it. And so, if you like this kind of worship and you can't make it on a Sunday morning, you could always come on Saturday at 6, and then join us for some worship music at 7 o'clock. And it's turned out that that's kind of an outreach for the youth. It turns out that the youth are leading that with Caleb. Right. And so speaking of youth, if the kids would like to go to children's, the littles, as you dub them, would like to go to children's church, this is the time that they can do this. So the littles are now released, and they're going to be with Kayla. Kayla is in the back there, and she was up in the front here. And Kayla, where are you going with the littles?
We are going to the crossing. It's on the other side of this.
On the other side of the screen, and then down the stairs.
Yes.
And we're going to go to the crossing grounds.
And we try to be back in time for communion.
And we'll try to be back in time for communion. So the littles are dismissed.
Hooray!
That want to go. All right. Yeah, we have one that is right at the side. Go this way. Okay. All right. Well, our text for this morning is Matthew 14, 13 through 21. And so I'm going to invite everybody to go turn in their Bibles or on their phones or wherever you want to look at that. And while I'm doing that, let me answer this question. Do you ever feel sort of overwhelmed by life? That the challenges of life are just kind of overwhelming? Does anybody ever feel that way? Does anybody ever look at the situation in our world and think, wow, I mean the whole world, like the whole planet, and think, man, that's kind of overwhelming. Or just in our country and all of the challenges we have. Or maybe in your own life. And you might think that the challenges in your own life are just huge. But do you know what can be the most neediest place of all? Church. Oh man, can the church get needy? Oh, we need lots of stuff at the church. You can start thinking, oh, we need, what is the main thing we need at church? We need no money. And we need money. And then what do we need? More people. And then what do we need after that? More money. More people. More money. And we always need more people to teach the littles. Oh my gosh, we need more people to teach. We need more people to teach the children. It used to be my job to recruit teachers for the children's Sunday school classes. Anyway, that was kind of a hard job. But then what happened was, we got an interim minister at this church. This is back, I was at First Christian Church in Rogers, back in the early 60s. Anyway, it wasn't? It seems like it. 50s, there you go. It was a long time ago. In a land far, far away. Anyway, so we got this interim minister, and he came to our church, and he said, David, really appreciate what you're doing here at the church, and especially how you're trying to get people more involved. And I want you to keep doing that job. I want you to keep getting more people involved. I want you to keep doing things and letting the people know about the things and all those things. But you have to do something for me. You can keep on doing it, but there's one word that you can never say. As long as I'm here, I don't want you to ever say this word when talking about something we're doing at the church. And that word was need. See, never. It's like that word was like anti-matter. He said, we don't. The church doesn't need. The church is full of opportunities. That Sunday school class that needs a teacher, guess what that is? That's an opportunity for somebody to teach these children and to be with these children. Everything, it's just like a sea of opportunities. We have opportunities for people here at the church. And your job, you have the good job of letting people know about all the opportunities that they have to grow in their faith and to serve. That's what your job is, just to let people know about all of their opportunities. So then, I went from saying to people, well, we have our second and third grade Sunday school class doesn't have a teacher, and we need one. And I was wondering if you would be our teacher. I went from that to saying, I would call them and say, hi, my name's, I'm Dave from the church, and we have an opportunity in our second and third grade Sunday school class, and I was wondering if you'd be willing to pray about if that's a spiritual opportunity that God is calling you towards, and I'll get back with you later on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and nobody ever got mad at me for, then I found out a little trick. Sometimes what we would do is we'd ask the children, say, if you could have any Sunday school teacher, who would you have? We'd make a little list. Then I would say, oh, and by the way, the children made a list who they would love to have as their teacher. Your name is on the list. Bye. So I learned to think of it as opportunities that we have. And there's this passage of scripture that has really helped me over the years, and I want to share this with you today. To me, it's just, if we can get this passage of scripture, then we can really sort of understand what ministry is all about. So Jesus is about halfway through his ministry. Great crowds are following him. But things are heating up, and John the Baptist is executed. So it's getting, I'll say things are starting to get pretty real. Jesus has decided this would be a good time for him to sort of take a break and retreat. The situation was kind of too hot. And so he decided he would go across the lake and just have some quiet time, basically. So verse 13 says, when Jesus heard what had happened, and that's that John the Baptist had been killed, he withdrew by boat privately to a solitary place. Hearing of this, the crowds followed him on foot from the town. It's kind of like, hey, did you hear that Jesus is going somewhere to be alone? Let's go meet him. And so the Sea of Galilee is kind of it's sort of circular, longish. But anyway, people were really familiar with it, and I guess they could figure out where he was going. I was thinking it wouldn't work so well on bull shows. If you had to walk around bull shows, that'd be a long walk. But apparently, they could sort of see where he was going, and they walked around to meet him. So I'd like to look at the first half of verse 14 here. It says, when Jesus landed and saw a large crowd. Now, if you didn't know what was getting ready to happen next, when Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, how might you fill that in, possibly, if you didn't know what was going to happen next? And he turned around and went back the other direction and said, listen, I'm trying to have some quiet time. You people, leave me alone. Yeah. When he saw the crowd, he turned around. But what it says, 14, the last half of verse 14, it says that he had compassion on them, and then that he healed their sick. Okay, so to have compassion is to be able to enter into how the other person is feeling, to feel with calm passion, to feel with. So he felt their pain. Have you ever been around somebody and you know they are not feeling your pain? Like, you're suffering and they're like, but Jesus actually felt what they were feeling. He felt it, and it said that he healed their sick. So, sometimes my first take on all this stuff is, well, that's Jesus. Maybe he could do that, but I can't. I'm not Jesus. I can't heal the sick. And since I can't heal the sick miraculously, then I should do nothing. Andre, I'm so glad that you're here. And you are with me. Money. People. More money. So I will tend to think, okay, well, I can't, I remember one time I was in Lions Club. And you know, you might not think that Lions Club is miraculous, right? Just a group of people we meet at Western Citizen once a week. And we just make classes, you know, and we collect them and we send them off. We saw a video one time, and it was some village somewhere in Mexico, and they had announced that Lions Club was in the village with glasses. People started lining up at 4:30 in the morning, hundreds of them. And the glasses had already been sorted. You know, that's it. When we send the glasses off, they find out what the and they get all sorted, and then they do an eye exam with the people there, and then they give them the best match that they can. And they did an interview with this one man, and he said, "I do work with my hands, and I couldn't see to do work with my hands, and I couldn't provide for my family anymore. But now that I have these glasses, I can see to work with my hands, and I can work, and I can provide for my family." So that those throwaway glasses turned out to be pretty much like a miracle. And then we started to do Lions Club. Helen Keller, this turned out to be kind of a commercial for Lions Club. I know this what happened. Helen Keller addressed Lions Club in the 1920s, and she asked Lions if they would be nights for the blind, and they would also help hearing impairment, because she suffered from both of those. And Lions Club also helps people with hearing aids. And if glasses are miraculous for people, hearing aids are super miraculous for people, because we get letters from people and they say, my hearing has been going down, I haven't been able to afford hearing aids, I haven't heard anything for years and years and years, and because of Lions Club, you got me these hearing aids, and I heard my grandson for the first time. I heard crickets. I hadn't heard crickets in years, and they were suddenly hearing. And what came to me was, Jesus made the blind to see and the deaf to hear. Well, you could say we weren't doing it miraculously, but it sure seemed miraculous to the people that were receiving it. So there's so many things that you can do, we can do, that are short of miraculous. Heard a story about, I won't say who it is, because I don't want to embarrass them, but one of the persons that was a volunteer at the House of Hope, there was a person who got really sick there, and they were kind of in pain, and they were just suffering. And our volunteer from the church just went and put their hand on their back. Just that much. Just having somebody just put their hand on just when you're suffering, just to be able to put their hand on your shoulder. Was that a healing? It certainly helped. It certainly helped that person. And then as the night went on, they ended up getting the other. So in other words, Jesus, he had compassion on them and he healed their sick. And so I guess I'm going to think, well, I can do that too. Maybe not the same level that Jesus can, but maybe I can do that a little bit myself. I find that inspirational. Okay, then we get to verse 15. It says, as evening approached, now Jesus apparently was doing this all day. And I wonder, if I was one of Jesus' disciples, I might have said, Jesus, you're spending all day working on this, healing all these people. Why don't you just, wave your hand and say you're all well? Be done with it. Send them off. Why did he work? But he seemed like Jesus wanted to give individual attention to people. And it took him all day. He must have been exhausted. So I love the disciples here, because the disciples think like I do. As evening approached, the disciples came to him and said, this is a remote place, and it's already getting late. Send the crowds away so they can go to the villages and buy themselves some food. Yay, disciples! See all those hungry people? Well, send them away. We don't have enough for them. Verse 17. The disciples say, we have here only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. Oh, did I miss verse 16? 15? Oh, 16, yeah. Jesus replied, They do not need to go away. You give them something to eat. And then they answered, we have here only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. Well, first of all, can you imagine, okay, you're the disciples, and you're just telling me, that we don't have enough food, and I say, oh, you don't have to send them away. You give them something to eat. That's the deer in the headlights. And then they say, we have here only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, they answer. What is the key word in verse 17 that tells you everything you need to know about their attitude?
Only?
Only. They don't say what they have. What they're saying is what they have isn't enough. We have only this much. We have only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. Now,
There was 12 of them. They didn't have 12 loaves and 12.
good observation. I like that. Yeah. We have only 5. 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. No, we have 12 fish. Or 5 fish, just 2 fish.
No, they weren't even going to get half a loaf and just barely a little.
We don't have enough to feed ourselves. Come on now. Okay, so verse 18, Jesus says, bring them here to me, he said. Now when I hear, as I imagine that scene, I pretty much hear Jesus say, bring them here to me. I don't hear Jesus say, idiots. I do. Oh, Dad, do miracles all day long. You've seen me do all these miracles. Give me that food. Stupid. He doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't do that. He just says, morons! But he doesn't demean them. He just says, just bring them here to me. And just ask him. He doesn't say, you're right. That's not enough. Go get some more stuff and bring that to me. He just says, bring me what you got. That's all he asks for. Just bring me what you have. Just bring me what you have. Then it says, verse 19, and he directed the people to sit down on the grass, taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking up to heaven, he gave thanks, he broke the loaves, and he gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the people. So a couple of things to notice. What do you notice about the way Jesus does that? Where he takes the bread, and then he gives thanks, and he breaks it, and he gives it to his disciples. Does that ring any bells? Something else? The communion meal. It's exactly the same thing that happens in the communion. As a matter of fact, Matthew 26, later on, just a few chapters later, says, at the night of the Lord's Supper, while they were eating, Jesus took bread, and when he had given thanks, and what he's doing is he's holding the bread up, and there's sort of a Jewish prayer of thanksgiving. Father, thank you for life and blessings. And so he would have said some prayer like that. Jesus took the bread, and when he had given thanks, then he broke it, and he gave it to his disciples. Same exact thing. Okay, also, what Jesus could have done is he could have taken the bread, and then he could have said to the disciples, hide and watch. And he could have gone out, and he could have distributed out to everybody. And the miracle could have happened while he was distributing. And then he could have gone back to the disciples and said, see. But what did he do instead? He gives it to the disciples. And it doesn't say that when he gives it to the disciples, it's amazing because when he puts the little piece of bread in their basket, it automatically fills up so that they know that they have enough when they turn around. Apparently what happens is they have to turn around and face the crowd with the little bit that they've got. That takes some faith to turn around and face that. I mean, how confident are you feeling? You got this little bit of... But then, apparently, as the people came and got it, and it multiplied. And it says, verse 20, that they all ate and were satisfied, and the disciples picked up 12 basketfuls of broken pieces that were left over. So it wasn't just, here we're going somewhere and you got a little bit to eat, but you left hungry. Nobody left hungry. As a matter of fact, everybody ate as much as they could, and then there was so much that was left over. And it said, this is often called the feeding of the 5,000. In verse 21 says that the number of those who ate was about 5,000 men, besides women and children. So in other words, it was a much larger group than that. If you had 5,000 men, how many women and children do you think would go along with that? Probably more than 5,000. Maybe this is 15,000 people. This could be a whole bunch of people. So, how does this apply to our church? Well, our church is in the process of trying to go through an epiphany. We're trying to understand how it is that we as a church can really go to the community and be a blessing in the community. How can we turn around and stand with what we have to be a blessing to the community? And that can make your knees a little bit weak in order to do this. Because we could think we don't have enough or people. Well, it says that they had there were 12 basketfuls left over. Yeah. So we could think that we don't have enough people or money in order to do this, and so we might think, listen, all we've got is enough just to keep the doors open and try to get our Sunday school classes covered, and then maybe people can come in, but just keep the lights on and all that kind of stuff, and then we're done. Much less to go and actually go out into the community and try to minister out in the community. Well, who knows what might happen if we do this. But what we're trying to understand is this is what we're called to as a church. So this is the process that we're going through. Most recently, we've been at the we've been at the House of Hope, and we have some leaders in our church that signed us up to be responsible. This was for the months of, it was December, January, and February, that First Christian Church would be responsible for every Tuesday night that it was going to be, around freezing, considering wind chill. That First Christian Church would provide the meal at 6 o'clock. We would be there with the people in fellowship with them until 10 o'clock, and then we would have at least one man and one woman that would stay with them overnight and not be asleep. That one person would be awake all night because of there's not a sprinkler system in that building, so they want one person to stay awake in case there's a problem. And so our church signed up for that. And you know what I thought when our church signed up for that? You know what I thought? Really, honestly, you know what I thought? I thought, you know where this is all going to end up? Me. Because these people aren't going to sign up for it. I'm going to have to do it. We don't have enough people. Who's going to sign up? Who is going to sign up to do this? Who's going to cook all these meals? We didn't know. They didn't have everybody signed up in advance. They signed up. And then we just prayed that it would get all filled up. And I can just, there's a lot of it that is filled up. We had this for this coming Tuesday. It looks like the weather's going to be about 32 degrees, so it looks like we're probably going to be doing it this coming Tuesday. This morning, we didn't have anybody to cook the meal for them. So guess what I didn't say in the first service? We need somebody to cook this meal. I said, hey, we have an opportunity at House of Hope on Tuesday to do the meal. And what? Sorry, already gone. The Peters are doing that. But from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, or 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock, you can sign up to just be there and just have fellowship time with the people. because we're not there to do ministry to them. We're there to do ministry with them. So that means we go up and we talk to them and we ask them. You know, apparently some of these people don't have people ask them about their life very often. Because when you ask them, you will get some stories. And it all comes out. You're like, whoa. So we ask them about their lives, and they often tell us. So that could be from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, or 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock, or you could just stay from 6 to 10. You can come for any part of that and just visit with people. And then there is the overnight. We have an opportunity for a female to stay overnight and an opportunity for a man to stay overnight. See, what we have here is opportunities. We have opportunities for ministry. We have all kinds of opportunities at the church. So that's kind of the direction that we're headed as a church. We did this process in weeks. We think about all the different needs of the community. There's 4 or 5 big needs that came up, and it's interesting. 2 of the top needs that came up in the community that we looked at had to do with transportation and children. And so, because it turns out that when people are down, that one of the things they often don't have is transportation. That's one of the main things that they need. And it turns out also that children get involved in a lot of situations where people are facing food insecurity and things like that. So I started to think about children and transportation after we had this meeting a couple of weeks ago. And I started thinking about our former youth director, Cindy Adler. She worked here for 6, 7 years. And then she went on to the Department of Human Services, kind of what her degree was in. And so she's working with DHS right now. So I think of children and transportation. So I called Cindy Adler and I said, does DHS have any need for help with children and transportation? And she said, I can't believe you just called me. Yes, we have all kinds of need for it. It turns out that we're always trying to get children to, from maybe where they are with their foster care to a doctor's appointment, or maybe up to DHS so that they can have a meeting with their parents. We have all kinds of need for transportation of children. Sometimes we can't do it, and then whenever we do it, we call on, we have volunteers. And all you have to do to be a volunteer is go to DHS, get a background check, and then once you get the background check, if they have a need to transport a child, they'll call you. And if they call you from DHS to take a child with nurse to a doctor's appointment, do you know what they will pay you? Mileage. They'll even pay your mileage to go and do this thing. So, I have a class. We're having the Wednesday night fellowship is beginning. We're going to have a Bible study led by Jim Bratton, and that class is from 6:15 to 7. The meal is from 5:30 to 6:15, and then Jim Bratton's doing a Bible study. We're going to have the meditation in the hearth room. Time for just meditation and contemplation. I'm going to do a class on our getting out in the community, or the Hope Partnership, the future story of our church. And so this Wednesday from 6:15 to 7:30, Cindy Adler is going to, and maybe Ashley Young, if she can make it, is going to come and talk to us about the Department of Human Services and the needs that these children have. And I'm going to be getting through every Wednesday night. I'm going to have some expert from the community come and talk to us about just the various opportunities that there are in the public out there for us to get involved. So anyway, so the future of our church is going to be all about turning around, just like Jesus' disciples, and facing the world, and thinking of all the opportunities that we have to serve with Jesus, if we will just give him what we have. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, you call us into your kingdom, and you send Jesus to show us who you are. And Jesus is a healer, and he's one who shows compassion, and he calls us to follow him, to be ministers of healing and compassion in his name. All he does is ask us to bring what we have. And then the experience that we have is that multiplies. And we find out that there's a lot more capacity that we had than we realized. And so help us, Heavenly Father, as we each are growing as our church is growing and your reach grow. Make these prayers in Jesus' name. Amen. Let me ask you this question. Have you ever felt intimidated to go into a church? Has anybody ever had that feeling? Let me ask you this. Did anybody grow up in a loving church where they never felt intimidated to go? Some people have had that experience. Wouldn't that be a wonderful experience? To grow up in a church where when you saw that church, you saw a place. I am always welcome here. I am always loved here. I am always accepted here. I'm always encouraged here. I'm always inspired here. And then whenever you saw the church, that was what you saw. As opposed to, every time you saw the church, you thought, they don't like me. They don't want me. If I go there, they're just going to tell me what a failure I am. Why would I ever want to go to that place? So, we're trying to be this church. The church where everybody goes, where everybody feels welcome, where everybody feels loved and accepted and inspired to follow Jesus. Because the best thing in the world, I have concluded, follow Jesus as my Lord and Savior and to seek first the kingdom of God. But what I discovered is, I sort of have a moment of clarity, but then it clouds up and I sort of forget all about it and I get distracted. So I found that I needed a community, I needed a fellowship to help me to go do that, to maybe push me a little further than I thought that I could go on my own. And then I found this wonderful church, and that's what this church is all about. We're just here, following Jesus as our Lord and Savior, seeking first the kingdom of God, loving everybody, encouraging everybody as we go on this in a non-judgmental kind of way. So everybody is invited to join. At the end of the service, we'll have a closing circle, and I'll ask you if you'd like to join the church, if you would, then you can at that time. But in the meantime, we're going to invite our elder to come forward and say a prayer of thanksgiving for offerings.